Science usually goes by a lot faster, I think, than math because I don't know. To me, science is a little bit easier and a little more fun, um, and it's more like art to me, anyways. So this one will probably go by fast. So we'll probably get out of class early, and then I will let everybody know when your one-on-one time is with me. And Demetrius, we are not doing questions right now. We have done nothing to need a question. Um, but I will be scheduling one-on-ones with everyone except C1 because he's the only one that's turning in his homework, just to make sure you have access to every website and can get on them, so that we can fix whatever it is. I'm not mad. I'm just saying we need that to happen. Miss Ben and Miss Perez saw that only one sixth grader and then like six fifth graders are doing their work, and that's not okay. So today it is my job to make sure that we can do it, because if you didn't know, they are being graded. So there are a lot of zeros in, um, and that's not okay. All right. I don't want you guys to fail. All right. Okay. Well, let's get started. Um, if you guys remember, for now, we're using this website called IXL for science. I personally like it a lot. Starting next week, I think I'm going to use a new website that Miss Remner from second grade suggested. It's called Mystery Science. It's a lot more interactive and fun, I think. But for now, we're going to just use this one because it's decently fun, but also very helpful. Um, Today's lesson in science, we are learning about independent variables. If you remember, on Tuesday, we talked about groups, experimental, and control. Control groups being the ones that you already know the outcome, and then experimental is the one that we don't know the outcome, so that's why we're testing it. If you remember, it was a lot of like, so and so heard that this works, so let's try it. That's an experiment. Whereas the control group is, if I water my flowers with water, they grow. We know that. So today it's going to be independent and dependent variables. So what those are: an independent variable is something that kind of happens on its own. There's not much we can do as like the scientist to affect it, whereas a dependent variable depends on something else. So a dependent variable could be like the weather. If I plant a seed during winter, that seed growing depends on the weather. If I plant a seed in spring, it's going to grow pretty fast because it's depending on good weather. Um, and also, if you plant a seed, it depends on us. Like, it depends on us and how we water the plant, how much sunlight we give it, things like that. Whereas an independent variable is like the soil. We can't really control the soil. We can choose the soil, but we can't control much else. So that would be independent. We can't really change anything about that. Um, so those are just some examples, but let's go ahead and read this first one. Some Breedy, that's okay. We're gonna go through it. Trust me, science is it's a lot easier to learn as you go. I think you'll get it quickly. So first, the passage below describes an experiment. Read the passage, think about the variables described. Sophie liked to make guacamole, but she could often find only unripe avocados at the grocery store. In biology class, Sophie learned that ripe fruits produce a gas called ethylene that can cause other fruits to ripen, meaning to become fresh and eatable for us. Sophie wondered whether storing ripe bananas with unripe avocados would make the avocados ripen faster. So, if you're not following, basically what they're saying is that a ripe fruit, so like a banana, like a perfect yellow banana that's not green, but not brown. It's like perfect in the middle, and it's just good and ready to go. That fruit, that banana, could help a fruit that's not fully grown or not ready to be eaten yet grow faster, is what they're saying. Sophie prepared 4 bags with 5 unripe avocados in each. She added 1 ripe banana to 2 of the bags and no bananas to the remaining 2. Then Sophie sealed all 4 bags. After 3 days, she opened each bag and counted the number of ripe avocados. All right. So the question, Kabir, hold on. So I talked to Tobias, and he was, so I gave him, oh, okay. Okay. Kabir's gonna join us. I'm gonna ask him what's up in a moment, but so guys, which of the following was an independent variable in the experiment? Hint, an independent variable is a variable whose effect you are investigating. A dependent variable is a variable that you measure. Okay, so one more time. An independent variable is a variable whose effect you are investigating. It's independent. That's the one we're trying to figure out. A dependent variable is something that we can measure. Like we can measure the weather. We can predict the weather. You know, when it's coming in, we can figure out how much rain is going to come, all that kind of stuff. Okay, independent variable are the things that happen, you know, on their own. So also, this one's just multiple choice. You don't have to type anything. So let's figure it out. The independent variable in this experiment, independent, the thing whose effect we're investigating, what is it? The number of ripe avocados or the number of ripe bananas? Reham.
The number of ripe bananas.
Number of ripe bananas. Good. It was the number of ripe bananas. That was the independent variable. Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay. All right. Kabir, welcome to, oh, is he gone? Did he leave? Okay, he left. Okay. All right. The passage below describes an experiment, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Jerry grew 10 mint plants on his back porch. He grew each plant in its own pot, and each pot was the same size and shape. Jerry noticed that his plants did not grow many leaves, and he wanted to see if earthworms could help them grow. To test this, Jerry divided his 10 plants into 2 groups of 5. Okay. For one group, he added 3 earthworms to the soil in each pot. He did not add any earthworms to the other group. 2 months later, Jerry counted the number of leaves on each of the 10 plants. He compared the number of leaves on plants. Which of the following was a dependent variable? Which one was the dependent variable? Okay. So if we rewind for a second, if you remember, if the bananas were independent, meaning they were like the outside source, the avocados were the dependent one because the avocados depended on the bananas to become ripe. Okay? Just like a kid and their parent. A kid depends on their parent usually for like a roof over their head and food and water and stuff like that. Okay? If that makes sense. So in this one, the dependent, remember the thing that we're measuring, okay? The dependent variable, is it the number of earthworms or the number of leaves? Deshawn.
The number of earthworms?
Let's find out. So, good guess. So guys, it was not the earthworms because the earthworms do not depend on the leaves. The earthworms don't need the leaves. We got the earthworms, and we're trying to see if they help the leaves. So the leaves depend on the earthworms. The leaves depend on the earthworms, okay? So right here, it explains it a little bit. Okay, experiments have variables, blah, 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 lots of things. The amount of fertilizer added to the soil was independent because it was the variable whose effect you were investigating. The number of tomatoes. Is this even the same? That's not even the same one. That's weird. Remember, dependent. The number of earthworms. Jerry's experiment investigated the effect of the number of earthworms. He decided how many earthworms to put in each pot. The number did not depend on what happened in the experiment. So the number of earthworms was independent. Jerry counted the number of leaves. This number could have depended on what happened in the experiment. Because again, the number of leaves depended on the earthworm's help. Okay, all right, let's keep going. Okay, Eddie liked to hike, but he was often bothered by mosquito bites. He read that rubbing lavender flowers on your skin can repel mosquitoes. Eddie wanted to find out if lavender flowers work better as a mosquito repellent than store-bought bug spray. So he sprayed bug spray on one of his arms and rubbed lavender flower on the other arm, then went for a hike. When he got home, he counted the number of mosquito bites on each arm. Eddie repeated this test each afternoon for a whole week. All right? So which of the following was a dependent variable? Which one of these depended on something else? The type of mosquito repellent used or the number of mosquito bites? Reham.
The number of mosquito bites.
The number of mosquito bites. Is she right? She is right. Guys, the number of mosquito bites depended on what he put on his arm. Okay? That depended on what he put on his arm. All right? I hope that makes sense. All right? Remember, the hint's always going to be down here. Someone is texting. Hey, Mr. Hughes, can Anis and Ayub just use Zoom? Yes? I thought you said you couldn't do that. Yes? I thought they couldn't do Zoom. Okay, Anis and Ayub might join us today or tomorrow. His mom or their mom just texted me. Okay, sorry. Annie was using steel to make rusted sculptures. After building each sculpture, she caused the steel in the sculpture to rust by placing it into a tub filled with salt water for 8 hours. Annie wondered if steel would rust faster submerged in vinegar instead of salt water. To find out, Annie cut 10 squares of steel, sheet metal, and split them into 2 equal groups, so 5 and 5. She put one group of squares into a tub filled with salt water and the other in vinegar. Once an hour for 8 hours, she counted the number of rusted steel squares in each group. All right. Which of the following is independent? Which is the thing that is not obviously dependent? Which is the one that is just happening to help us figure out what's dependent? All right, the independent variable, the type of liquid used, or the number of rusted steel squares. And so I see Reham's hand. Oh, I see a chat going on. You have his answer. What? Call me on Instagram after class? I don't have Instagram. I don't know what that was all about. So guys, what I like to say in this situation is, does the type of liquid used depend on anything, or does the number of rusted steel squares depend on something? All right. If you ask which one is the dependent, because to me that's the easier one, then that just means the other one's going to be independent. Okay, so I think I saw, other than Reham, I saw Siwan's hand, but then it's gone now. Siwan, was your hand up? No?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to answer?
No.
Okay, Sambriti, how about you try?
I think it's the first one.
Okay, the type of liquid used?
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. Yes, good job, Samriti. So it was, yes, the type of liquid used, guys, is independent. The type of liquid's not depending on anything. The number of steel that got rusted, that was dependent on vinegar or salt water. Okay, so good job. All right. Many types of bacteria cannot survive on objects made of copper. Dr. Carey was considering using beds with copper bed rails instead of beds with plastic rails at the hospital where she worked. She wanted to know if copper bed rails would reduce the number of patients who got new infections. To test this, Dr. Carey had beds with copper rails placed in half the hospital bedrooms. Over the next 6 months, 430 patients were admitted to the hospital. 215 had copper bed rails, 215 had plastic bed rails. Dr. Carey counted the number of patients in each room who got new infections. All right? And this one wants us to find independent. So, again, for everyone who hasn't really been raising their hand, what is a good question to ask is, does the type of bed rail depend on something, or does the number of patients who got new infections depend on something? Okay. And then once you figure out which one depends on something, that means the other one's independent. Okay. It says, Deshaun, which one is independent?
The bed.
Yes. Good job, buddy. It was the bed. Yeah, because the bed rail's not depending on anything. All right, good job. All right, Jason wanted to grow cucumbers from seeds. He read that using a heating pad to heat up potting soil could help make seeds germinate, which just means to sprout faster. Jason wondered whether the temperature of the heating pad would affect how quickly the seeds germinated or how fast they sprouted. Jason prepared 2 potting trays, each made of 10 tiny pots of soil. He planted 1 cucumber seed in each of the small pots arranged near a sunny window. He set an electric heating pad to 75 degrees, placed it under the potting tray, and then the second heating pad to 85 degrees and placed it under the other tray. He observed the pots daily. He counted the number of days it took until the seeds germinated. All right? So it's what? It wants independent again, meaning, does the number of days until a seed germinate depend on something? Does the temperature of the heating pad depend on something? And then which one's dependent, and the other one's going to be independent. All right? Reham.
The temperature of the heating pad.
Temperature of the heating pad? That is correct. Good job. Yeah, the temperature of the heating pad did not depend on anything. All right, but the number of days did, because based on the temperature, it could be more days or less days. All right, good job. All right, here we go. All right, this one also looks like, yeah, the same thing, even though it's part 2, but we'll go through it. Okay, Juan designed an electric circuit to test how well different types of metal conduct electricity. The circuit included a battery, a light bulb, wires, clips that could be attached to a sheet of metal. If the metal conducted electricity poorly, the light bulb would appear dim. If the metal conducted electricity well, the light bulb would appear, bright. By the way, guys, this is a very fun science experiment. I wish we got to do this with you guys. Juan collected 9 equally sized sheets of metal, 3 copper, 3 iron, 3 aluminum. He used the clips to attach to each one at a time. For each sheet, he used a light meter to measure how much light the light bulb produced. Okay. All right. So we're back to independent. All right. But this time it looks like the only difference is they took away the hint. Okay. So with our independent variable, or with our 2 choices, does the amount of light produced by the light bulb depend on something, or does the type of metal used in the circuit depend on something? Siwan, which one are you answering? Are you going to answer dependent or independent?
Independent.
Okay, so which one's independent?
Type of metal?
Yes. Good job. Yeah, because the amount of light produced, guys, depends on the metal we use. So yes, that one is independent. Good job. Awesome. All right. Sam's daughter complained that the apple slices in her lunchbox turned brown at lunchtime. Sam read that when apple slices are exposed to air, oxygen in the air reacts with the cut surface of the apple slices, turning them brown. Sam's favorite cooking website said that pouring lemon juice on the apple slices would slow down this reaction. So Sam cut an apple into 10 slices. I've got to use the restroom, so I'll be right back. Okay, that's fine. Sam cut an apple into, thank you for telling me. Sam cut an apple into 10 slices, put 5 into a bowl and poured 2 tablespoons of lemon on them, and then put the other 5 into another bowl and didn't add lemon juice. After an hour, he counted the number of apple slices in each bowl that turned brown. Okay, so this one's independent again, all right? The number of apple slices that turned brown, the amount of lemon juice added to the apple slices. Which one is independent? And again, if it helps, you can read them as saying, does the number of apple slices that turn brown depend on something, or does the amount of lemon juice added depend on something? Right? I think I saw Deshawn's hand first.
The number of apple slices.
The number of apple slices is independent or dependent?
Independent.
Are we sure?
No.
So I'm gonna read both. So the number of apple slices that turn brown. Does the number of apple slices that turn brown depend on anything?
Yeah.
Yes. What do they depend on?
The lemon.
Yes. Good job. So then the thing that doesn't is the amount of lemon juice added. That doesn't depend on anything because it doesn't control anything. So that's the independent one. Okay. Nice. Okay. So Pablo's grandmother suggested that soaking berries in hot water might help prevent the berries from getting moldy. All right, I'm back. Hi, welcome back. Suggested that soaking berries in hot water might help them from getting moldy. To test this, he harvested fresh blackberries, divided them evenly into 8 bowls, so 4 and 4. He filled 4 with room temperature water, and then the other 4 with heated water at 125 degrees. Pablo let all the berries soak in the water for 30 seconds. Then he poured out the water, dried the berries, placed the 2 groups in a bowl in the refrigerator, keeping each group separate. After 5 days, he counted how many were moldy. So, which of these is dependent on something? So, what's dependent this time? The temperature of water depended on something, or the number of moldy blackberries depended on something? Simbridi.
What does dependent mean again?
Dependent is it depends on something else happening. So, does the temperature of water depend on anything, or does the moldy blackberries depend on something?
The temperature of water.
You think the temperature of water depends on something? What would it depend on?
The blackberries.
No. So the temperature doesn't depend on the blackberries because the blackberries can't control the temperature. So
Oh,
no, that's okay. That's a good point. So can the moldy blackberries depend on something?
Oh yes.
What can they depend on?
What's that? My brain is damaged.
No, you're fine. What can the moldy blackberries depend on?
The temperature
The
water.
temperature. Exactly. So it is that one. Good job. All right, guys, we are on stage 3, and this one just looks like a fill in the blank. So this time, instead of us picking if it's independent or dependent, it gives us the sentence. Well, we're still doing it just backwards. So it gives us a sentence, and then we have to figure out, is it dependent or independent this time? Okay. So it's basically what we've been doing, just swapped. Okay, so Levi often saw woodpeckers perched in trees in his backyard, but never saw them at his bird feeders. Levi usually filled his feeders with sunflower seeds. He wondered if he could attract woodpeckers by adding a different type of food to the feeders. To test this idea, Levi gathered 8 identical bird feeders. He filled 4 with sunflower seeds. He filled the remaining 4 with crushed peanuts. Levi then placed the bird feeders in the backyard. Over the next 5 days, he counted the number of woodpeckers that visited each morning. In this experiment, the number of woodpeckers that visited the bird feeders was dependent or independent. So you can say, did the number of woodpeckers that visit depend on something, or did it not depend on something? Reham?
The independent. It was an independent variable.
You think the number of woodpeckers that visited was independent?
Mr. Hughes, I thought I was supposed to be doing this by myself. You're really confusing me.
No, I'm here to help. I'm here to teach. Duh. So let's look at it again. The number of woodpeckers that visited the bird
It's
feeders.
obviously wrong if you're reading it again.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a dependent variable.
It is dependent. But so why it's dependent is because the number of woodpeckers that visited depends on what's in the bird feeders. It depends on whether it's a boy, whether Levi put sunflower seeds or peanuts in them. So now we know that the sunflower seeds and the peanuts, that's the independent one. Those don't depend on anything. So, boom, Reham got it. Okay.
Yeah, I did get it right.
Yeah, girl. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce this name, so good luck. Here I go. Giardia, Giardia, Giardia,
Get up.
Giardia. Okay, Giardia. I'm gonna go with that one. It doesn't sound like a disease. Giardia is a microscopic parasite that lives in water and can infect humans. Dr. Leonard designed a drinking straw that contained a filter to remove Giardia from water. Dr. Leonard wanted to know if a longer filtering straw would remove more Giardia. He made 6 straws. 3 were 5 inches long, and then 3 were 10 inches long. She prepared 6 1-liter batches of water, each with 10,000 Giardia parasites, I guess. Then Dr. Leonard passed 1 batch of water through each straw. After each batch passed through, she used a microscope to count the number of Giardia that remained in a small sample of the water. Whoa. All right. In this experiment, the number of Giardia that remained in the water was dependent or independent? So did the number of giardia that remained in the water depend on anything? And if so, it's dependent. If not, then it's independent. All right? Let's do some breedy.
Me? Okay. It's a mm, wo- it's dependent variable.
Is it? Yes.
You're right. Oh my.
Yeah, no, guys. No, it was. It was dependent on the length of the straw. So yes, you are right. Okay. It looked, how many more do we have? We have, this is the last one. All right, if we get this one right. All right. Alexa was building a wooden race car. She could choose between two types of wheels for the car. Each of these wheels was 10 inches in diameter, but one type was heavier than the other. Alexa was curious if the weight of the wheels would affect how fast her car would go downhill. Alexa put the lighter set of wheels on the car, rolled down the hill 3 times. She measured how long it took her to get to the bottom each time. Then she put the heavier set on and did the same thing. So in this experiment, the weight of the wheels was dependent or independent. Did the weight of the wheels depend on anything? If so, it's dependent. If not, it's independent. Demetria, this is the first time your hand went up. You're for sure getting called on.
Wow.
So what is it? You got this. Remember, you can read them both as sentences. You could read it as the weight of the wheels was dependent on something, or was the weight of the wheels independent? Did the weight of the wheels depend on anything? Yes or no?
Yeah. Hmm.
So if the weight of the wheels depended on something, what did they depend on?
Her winning?
Huh?
Her winning?
The weight of the wheels depended on her winning?
Probably.
Okay. So then that would mean that means she would only do this test every time she wins. Is that what our story told us?
Nope.
No. So
It's independent.
it's independent, yes, because in this story specifically, it was not dependent on whether she won or not. It was what was dependent was how fast she went for her test. But if the story did say she wanted to see if the weight of the wheels made how she went or whatever, then yes, you would have been right. So, but the weight of the wheels did not. The weight of the wheels did not depend on anything. The speed did. So, good job. All right, guys, we have mastered the skill. Gold prize, killing it. Not too shabby. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. And then I'm gonna stop recording.